first off, congrats on getting drafted. First off, I got to ask you, 5.5-hour nerve-wracking wait on Saturday. I mean, did it kind of feel like 5 days sitting on your couch, sitting on the couch with your friends waiting to get picked?
Yeah, it felt like kind of an eternity. You know, I was stressing a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, I trusted the guy had a plan, and so wherever that was going to end up, whether it was a draft pick, free agent, or whichever team it was, you know, I was going to just be in the right spot where I needed to be.
Did any thoughts go through your mind that maybe you wouldn't get picked and you'd have to go through the dreaded free agent route?
Yeah, of course. That was always a thought. You know, I knew that could always be an option. But again, same thing. I just realized that God has a plan, so I was going to trust it.
Who called you, or how did you find out in the 7th round you'd finally gotten picked?
I got a call from the GM of the Green Bay Packers, and he said, "Hey, Ty, I just want to let you know we're picking you with our next pick, and we're excited to have you out here in Green Bay." And then he handed it off through the ranks, you know, to the head coach, defensive coordinator, linebacker coach, special teams coach. And so I got to talk to each of them a little bit, and they said how excited they were to get me out there. And so it was an exciting moment for sure.
When you were going through the combine and obviously all the pre-draft talk, was Green Bay a team you thought would take you, or did that kind of come out of nowhere?
I had communication with them as well as my agent had too, and so I mean I knew that could have always been an option. Not to say that they were talking to me the most, but I still had a feeling that could be a possibility.
Did you grow up a Packers fan, or did you even expect before the draft that you would be going to the cathedral of football known as Lambeau Field?
I mean, I've always, you know, enjoyed watching the Packers play, you know, when they had Brett Favre, and of course guys like Aaron Rodgers and Clay Matthews and guys that have been there and performed really well for that program. I've always respected the Green Bay Packers, and so the fact that I get to go have the opportunity to play at Lambeau Field, I mean, it's going to be a surreal experience. I can't wait for my first time doing it.
Who was your first call to when you finally had gotten selected after almost 5.5 hours of waiting on Saturday?
Shoot, honestly, I was just getting calls, texts, messages. I mean, I was with my immediate family and friends and stuff, and so there was no one I really needed to call necessarily. I had people reaching out, though, so I was just trying to take my time. I thought I was blowing up. So that pretty much took me 3 days to finally catch up on all that stuff.
I know when you're in the draft, for the most part, unless you're the top pick, you're just happy to get picked wherever you go and the team doesn't matter. But Green Bay, we know, has been a stable franchise for so long. I know they just made a coaching change. It kind of help at least being picked with a team that has stability versus maybe somebody who is not stable or somebody who's been going through a lot of overhaul in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And the nice thing about the new coaches coming in is that I was their first linebacker to be picked with a new coaching staff. And so everyone's going in there and preparing to learn a new scheme. And so it's not like I'm way behind schedule compared to all the other veterans that are there. And so we're all kind of on the same page, going out there to learn and compete.
Green Bay's obviously been a great defensive team for so long with Nitschke and Forrest Gregg and Reggie White. And does it kind of make a little pressure because this is a franchise that's used to having strong linebackers or strong defensive guys over the last 50, 60 years?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily pressure, but it's something to try to live up to that I'm excited to, you know, set a goal for myself because I want to be like one of those greats for the Green Bay Packers. And so going in there, I'm going to put my best foot forward each and every day. I'm going to try to be that guy that's, you know, first one there, last one to leave. I mean, that's the kind of things I feel like that creates that type of player.
As a 7th round pick, usually those are the guys that are at the tail end of the roster that maybe are just hoping to make the practice squad so they can get picked up. I know obviously your goals are high, but how do you attack training camp, attack OTAs and all that stuff, trying to show them that they made the right pick while trying to avoid maybe doing too much or making mistakes from trying too hard?
Well, I think, again, just putting my best foot forward in everything that I do, whether it's the way that I watch film, the way that I treat my body through working out, being in the training room, you know, being on the practice field and kind of trying to emulate what the older guys are doing, the guys that have been there before. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to act like a rookie. I go in there and try to act like a mature guy that's been there before, even though I haven't and it's all new. I'm just going to be ready to go out there and just compete every single day.
I know you talked to Davenport and some of the guys from TCU heading into the draft. What did they tell you about preparing for your first year and just trying to making sure that you make the roster and get a chance to play?
They just said just each and every day like that, just go out there and work hard and don't take anything for granted. Don't overlook anything. You know, try to be meticulous and be perfect in everything that you do. And so that's the approach that I'm going to take.
As I mentioned, Lambeau Field is considered the cathedral of the NFL, not Jerry World, but Lambeau Field. Just what's it going to feel like when you step on there for the first time, even though the stadium is going to be empty, knowing that there's been so much history and so many great players, coaches that have been inside of that stadium?
Oh, it's going to be an adrenaline rush for sure. I'm probably walking there with butterflies in my stomach, just knowing that it's sacred ground in the world of football. So, I'm going to try to make the most of every single rep and every single opportunity that I get to have on that field.
Green Bay is one of those teams that has had that long sellout streak. It's kind of like a college town. You have homes right next to the stadium. The fans, they'll say hello to you on the way out. Is it kind of easier going into a culture like that where the fans are welcoming you up just because up north the mentality is a little different than maybe some of the other parts of the country?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, the Green Bay Packer lifestyle, that whole area up there, it's a family. And I can tell just by all the love I've been getting through social media and such, just of how much these people from even all over the world love their Green Bay Packers. And so I'm excited to go and be a part of that.
Speaking of social media, assuming that you do make the roster, how do you handle it? Because these days everybody's worried about fantasy football. Everybody thinks they're an armchair quarterback, and everybody will say some stupid things. I mean, how do you keep your cool if something like that happens?
I just remember, I just convince myself, hey, they're not going through the same things that I'm going through. So if I go out there and mess up or make a mistake on a play or let up a touchdown, that happens. It's football. I'm not going to win every single time. But at the end of the day, I'm also on defense, so I don't really have fantasy points necessarily. So don't really have to worry about that. But at the same point, I'm just going to go out there and have to give my best effort on every single play. That way I can prevent things like that from happening.
Reagan, obviously, you played here a few years ago as a linebacker and a quarterback. You're telling me about this practice field. Just walk us back to what it was like being on this field, because you told me this was not a turf field when you were here.
Oh, no. When I was here, this whole field was, you could call it grass, but the hole between all the hashes, it was pretty much just all dirt. And so especially if it was a hot, dry day, it hadn't rained in a week or so, you're running around, there's just dust floating in the air. You start having to rub your eyes because there's stuff that's constantly in it. If you got tackled when we were scrimmaging, you're kind of in trouble for the next few plays, just trying to get some water and slosh your eyes out, clean your eyes out. But it's crazy how much Reagan's come along and how different it looks from the field to the weight room to even the school itself. It's beautiful.
What are some of your memories of playing for Wetzel? And I remember when your senior year, you helped lead Reagan back to the top of the district, where they've been at pretty much ever since.
That whole experience was one of those things that you kind of dream about whenever you're growing up and you see yourself as a high school, player. You want to be the one that helps your team find success and wins the district title. Of course, you ultimately want to win state too, which that didn't happen for us. But at the same time, it was one of those memories that I'll have for a lifetime, and I still keep in. It's something that we always constantly will come back in conversation.
You were the first Reagan alum to be picked in the NFL draft. I think the first in any of the pro sports drafts, if I'm not mistaken. Assuming you make the roster, you'll be the first one to make it, since Trevor Knight only got to the practice squad. Obviously you're representing Reagan and really being the first pro athlete from Reagan.
Yeah, it's a tremendous honor. I'm gonna try to represent that with pride, and because I represent Reagan as well as TCU, and especially my family and the name on my back, and friends as well. And so I'm going to go out there and represent it to the best of my ability.
Final question, Ty. I know we talked about this previously, but for the younger Rattlers, and we just had spring ball out here, they're getting ready for the next season. What do you tell those younger players, and even the ones that are in middle school, junior high, about trying to excel not just on the football field or the basketball court, but also in the field of life?
There's so many things that playing competitive sports teaches you about being a person and being a responsible individual, a hardworking individual, and stuff that translates not only on the football field or on the basketball court, but in your academics and the way that you treat people and the way that you work, whether it's your job or the way that you support your family. All the character qualities that I've learned out here, 100% transfer into the rest of your life, and it's something that you cannot take for granted.
Ty, I appreciate it as always. Thanks for your time. Hopefully you'll have a good training camp with the Packers, and hopefully you'll make everybody say Aaron who.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. He's gonna be. No one's ever gonna be saying Aaron who, but yeah,
or Brett who.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make a name for myself in Reagan High School.
Hey, thanks so much, Ty. As always, appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, shoot, Reagan still's never been one either. Well, I guess in other sports, yeah, but not football.